Viewed from space, New Zealand appears as just two small pieces of land in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, completely separated from larger continents like Australia or Antarctica. For centuries, that image led people to believe that it was simply an isolated group of islands, unrelated to any other large-scale geological structures. But that perspective began to change in the early 21st century, as geological data and seabed survey technology reached a level of accuracy sufficient to look deep beneath the ocean's surface. In 2017, scientists officially released a conclusion that sparked widespread debate in the geological community. The area surrounding New Zealand is not a collection of scattered fragments of the seabed, but rather the remains of a continent that has almost completely submerged. That continent was named Zealandia. What makes Zealandia special is not only its size, spanning nearly 5 million square kilometers, but also its almost invisible presence on the world map. Approximately 94% of Zealandia lies below sea level, with only the highest landmasses forming New Zealand and a few other small islands exposed. This creates a rare geographical paradox, a continent that still exists geologically, but has virtually disappeared from human visual perception for centuries. During further research, geologists began to find clearer evidence of Zealandia's continental nature. The crust in this area is significantly thicker than the surrounding oceanic crust. The underlying rock composition also shares characteristics with other continents on Earth, rather than resembling the typical seabed. These factors suggest that Zealandia cannot be viewed merely as an extended seafloor region, but must be classified as a structurally independent continent. Zealandia's story begins tens of millions of years ago, when it was still part of the supercontinent Gondwana. As tectonic plates shift, this landmass breaks apart and begins its own geological journey. Unlike many other continents that maintain stable buoyancy, Zealandia has undergone a slow subsidence process that has lasted for tens of millions of years. This process doesn't happen in a sudden collapse or disappearance. It is the continuous shifting of the Earth's crust, where the geological buoyancy is no longer strong enough to hold entire land masses afloat above the water. The low-lying land is gradually being encroached upon by the sea. The plains became coastal areas. Coastal areas continue to be submerged over time. Eventually, only the highest land masses remained that were suitable to survive on the ocean surface. That is New Zealand today. Remarkably, this entire process unfolded over an extremely long geological period, far exceeding any concept of human history. No civilization has directly witnessed the complete transformation of Zealandia. Only geological traces remain on the seabed, waiting for modern science to be able to piece them together into a complete picture. In retrospect, Zealandia was more than just a simple geological discovery. It forces humanity to question the extent of our understanding of the very planet we live on. Because if a continent can exist in a nearly invisible state for millions of years, then what we see on maps today may not be the whole story of Earth. If Zealandia was a continent that nearly vanished from human sight, what is more thought-provoking is that its disappearance was not in the way we typically imagine the collapse of a landmass to be. There wasn't a single disaster. There is no clear ending point. There is only one process, lasting tens of millions of years, in which the boundary between land and ocean gradually shifts. In its early stages, Zealandia still retained the shape of a complete continent. There are mountain ranges. There are vast plains. There is a system of rivers flowing through the valleys. It is a world similar to other continents on Earth, where water, rocks, and climate together create a stable living environment. But over time, the geological structure of this area began to change. The movement of tectonic plates has caused the landmass to no longer be supported as it once was. The entire area is undergoing a slow, silent subsidence process beneath the gradually expanding ocean surface. The important thing is that this process doesn't happen in the way people typically imagine a sinking to be. There is no clear line between gain and loss. The only difference is the continuous change in terrain elevation above sea level. Low-lying areas are beginning to be intruded upon by seawater. The valleys became bays. The plains transformed into shallow-bottomed areas. Then, over time, these areas continued to be completely covered by the ocean. Meanwhile, the higher land masses gradually became isolated islands. The mountain peaks that once belonged to a single landmass now appear only as scattered dots on a map. That was New Zealand and some of the surrounding islands as we know them today. It is noteworthy that this entire process took place over a long enough period of time that there were no direct observations from humans. No civilization has recorded Zealandia's transition from land to ocean. No ancient maps depict the entire process. Only geological traces remain on the seabed, where layers of sediment, ancient rocks, and crustal structures still preserve the memory of a world that has changed shape. When scientists began analyzing this data, they realized that the ocean floor was not as simple a surface as they had previously thought. It contains complex structures comparable to those on land, including traces of environments that once harbored life. These findings have completely changed our understanding of the ocean. The ocean is not just the end of the continent, it also holds the remains of continents that have vanished. Zealandia is therefore not just a submerged landmass, it is a part of Earth's history shrouded in water, where the past is not erased, but merely transformed into a state that is difficult for humans to see with the naked eye. And in that state, the ancient world did not disappear completely. It still exists. It just lies beneath a layer of ocean deep enough to make people forget that it was once on land. If Zealandia and its sinking process suggest a world that may have vanished from the Earth's surface, then the traces left behind on the seabed open up a deeper question about what once lived there. Because a continent is not just rocks and terrain. It was once a place where life existed. In rock samples collected from the Zealandia area, scientists have found fossil traces of ancient plants. These remains suggest that the area was once forested, had thriving vegetation, and possessed climatic conditions stable enough to sustain ecosystems for extended periods. This means that before sinking into the ocean, Zealandia was not an empty landmass. It used to be a vibrant world. There are trees, there are animals, there are ecosystems that operate according to natural laws, just like any other continent on Earth. Among the most notable discoveries are fossils of moas, a group of flightless birds that once lived in New Zealand. Moas come in a wide range of sizes, with some species reaching over 3 meters in height and weighing hundreds of kilograms. They had no natural predators in their early days, which allowed them to develop in a relatively isolated environment. The existence of moas suggests that the ecosystem of Zealandia once evolved in very unique conditions, isolated from the rest of the world. But more importantly, it's about how these traces are preserved. Under normal circumstances, ancient ecosystems are easily wiped out by time, erosion, and geological changes. However, Zealandia's submersion to the ocean floor created a unique environment where many biological traces were preserved within underwater sediment layers. This makes the seabed of Zealandia a natural repository of the biological past. Not all life disappears completely. A portion of it remains, buried deep beneath millions of years of sediment. As scientists analyzed these specimens, they began to piece together a more complex picture of the region's biological history. It's not just the existence of individual animal species, but a complete ecosystem that once flourished on a continent now hidden from view. This leads to an important realization. Oceans are not just boundaries separating continents. It also holds the biological memories of vanished worlds. In the case of Zealandia, what remains is not a civilization or a human story, but the remnants of an ecosystem that once developed independently for millions of years. And these very traces show that life on Earth is not only diverse spatially, but also profoundly transforms over time. There are worlds that once teemed with life, but over time, they became buried beneath the ocean. It's not because they disappeared immediately, but because this planet is constantly changing, regardless of whether life has time to adapt. If Zealandia was a continent buried beneath the ocean, then its landmass, New Zealand, holds a different question, one that no longer belongs to geology, but shifts to the realm of human history. According to the mainstream historical view, the Maori are considered the first group of people to settle permanently in New Zealand, beginning around the 13th century, when they migrated by sea from the vast region of Polynesia. They brought with them their language system, beliefs, and social structure, which formed a distinctive indigenous culture that still plays an important role in national identity today. However, when delving into the different layers of data, the story of New Zealand's first inhabitants isn't always presented as a simple linear progression. In the oral traditions of the Maori people, there are stories that mention the existence of groups of people before the period of formal settlement. These descriptions are often not presented in the manner of modern historical records, but rather exist as legends, communal memories, and cultural symbols passed down through generations. This complicates interpretation, as the line between symbolism and actual events is not always clear. Besides cultural factors, archaeology in New Zealand has also yielded some noteworthy discoveries. Several artifacts, such as stone tools, remnants of daily life, and layers of ancient charcoal and ash, have been found at various locations. These findings have, in some cases, led to discussions about the possibility of earlier periods of habitation than the official Maori migration timeline. However, the available data still do not form a sufficiently strong, unified system of evidence to definitively confirm the existence of an organized pre-Maori population. Therefore, the issue is not whether or not a conclusion exists, but rather the completeness of the current data. This makes the story a space where many different fields intersect. Archaeology provides material evidence. History provides the time frame and context. Cultural anthropology provides insights into community traditions and memory. But no single field can fully recreate the entire picture of the past on its own. Another important factor to consider is the geographical characteristics of New Zealand. This is a region completely isolated from major population centers in the Pacific. This geographical distance made past migrations much more difficult, and also increased the isolation of communities that may have existed in the past. In such an environment, preserving historical traces spanning centuries or millennia becomes extremely challenging. Natural factors such as erosion, geological activity, and climate change can distort or completely erase many physical traces. This means that even if pre-Maori groups existed, the likelihood of them leaving behind clear evidence to this day is very low. In this context, the question of those who came before the Maori cannot be answered with a simple statement. It doesn't fall into the category of absolute right or wrong. It lies in the intersection between what has been proven, what is still debated, and what has been obscured by time. And like the story of Zealandia, it reminds us that history is not made solely by what remains. It is also shaped by what disappeared before humans had a chance to record it. If Zealandia shows that a continent can disappear beneath the ocean yet leave traces that humans can discover tens of millions of years later, then the ecosystem that once existed on that land opens up another layer of story about life and disappearance. Because the history of a continent is not just the history of rocks and landforms, it is also the history of the creatures that once lived, adapted, and disappeared, along with the changing environment. One of the most striking examples is the Haast's eagle, the largest bird of prey ever known on Earth. This species once existed in New Zealand, in the area above Zealandia, and was considered one of the tops of the food chain in that ancient ecosystem. With a wingspan that can reach approximately 3 meters and a weight of over 10 kilograms, eagles are not only large birds, but also true predators capable of attacking other large animals. Its primary prey was the moa, a group of giant, flightless birds that once inhabited the ancient New Zealand archipelago. The existence of these two species suggests that the ecosystem here once developed in an isolated environment, where species evolved in very different ways compared to the rest of the world. There are no large carnivorous mammals like those found on other continents. There are no familiar food chains that we usually see. Instead, it is a distinct ecosystem, shaped by geographical isolation spanning millions of years. However, that ecosystem doesn't last forever. When humans first arrived in New Zealand, the ecological balance began to change rapidly. Moa was hunted. The habitat has been altered. And the Haast's eagle, which depends on its primary food source, is also gradually disappearing. Within a relatively short period of Zealandia's geological history, both species became extinct. This creates an important point of comparison. Zealandia may have existed as a continent for tens of millions of years, but it is only in the last few centuries that the most significant biological changes have occurred. This shows that the survival of an ecosystem depends not only on the length of time it takes, but also on the very delicate balance between natural factors and external influences. When viewed from a broader perspective, this story is not just about New Zealand or Zealandia. It is a testament to how history operates on Earth. Just because something lasts a long time doesn't mean it will last forever. Once stable ecosystems can change rapidly when a new factor emerges. And what seems stable in nature sometimes disappears in a very short period of time, according to geological standards. From then on, Zealandia was more than just a story about a sinking continent. It became an example of how life and the environment are constantly changing together, continually reshaping the Earth's surface. And when you look back at the whole story, what remains is not just geological data or biological fossils, but it's a broader lesson about history, that what humans know about Earth is only a very small part of the whole picture, and the rest may still lie beneath the ocean, under layers of rock, or in layers of time that we cannot yet reach. Okay, this time I'll go deeper. Exactly what you wanted. Not stopping at general awareness lessons, but pushing to a deeper level of modern man, the mechanism of self-deception, looking at the surface, and how society operates based on the visible part. Stay true to the Zealandia ethos. The greatest is always beneath what we perceive as the whole. Looking back at Zealandia from beginning to end, what makes it shocking isn't the fact that a continent sank, but the fact that humans only realized its existence when they had the tools to see through the layer of water that had concealed it for tens of millions of years. But what's even more thought-provoking is how we react to that discovery. The world hasn't changed. Rather, it's the way people see things that changes when their observational tools become sufficiently sophisticated. This leads to a far more unpleasant reality than the geological story suggests. Humans do not see the world as it is, but only as far as their observational abilities allow. We are accustomed to believing that what we cannot see does not exist. We tend to believe that what surfaces is the whole story, and they tend to draw conclusions based on the most easily accessible data. In social reality, this happens constantly, without anyone noticing. An economic problem is explained by fluctuating numbers, while the underlying structure has long since changed. A social upheaval is often viewed as a single event, when in fact it is the result of a series of smaller changes that have accumulated over many years. A person is judged by a single moment, while the entire process of how their behavior was formed is ignored. Zealandia is just one physical example of a deeper cognitive mechanism. Humans tend to frame reality within what they can see immediately, because that's the quickest way to create a sense of understanding. But the feeling of understanding doesn't necessarily mean you've truly understood. Beneath every seemingly obvious system, there's always another layer of structure operating more slowly, deeper, and more subtly. An economy is not just what it shows on a chart. A society is not just what is shown on the surface of the media. A person is not just what they show for a short period of time. Zealandia exists as a reminder that some things don't disappear. They simply fall to a lower level of observation. And when people are only used to living on the surface, they will always have the feeling that the world has suddenly changed, even though in reality, everything had shifted long before. The most dangerous thing is not knowing. Rather, it's believing you know something only because you're seeing the tip of the iceberg. And perhaps, if Zealandia taught humanity something deeper than geology, it was that the world is always larger than the level of our perception, and every distortion in perspective begins with mistaking the surface for the whole of reality. If you found Zealandia's story interesting, leave a comment about what surprised you most during this entire journey. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue following other mysteries of Earth and unexplored worlds.